Alec Murdaugh and his legal team filed a new motion to remove Judge Newman from this case. So we're going to have to talk about that and cover that motion.
I'm legal analyst Emily D. Baker. This is the Quick Bits, where I break down just the main points of the pop culture and entertainment cases I'm currently covering on YouTube and the Emily Show podcast. Let's get into it.
You may have seen in the news that they filed their motion for new trial. If you remember, we already went over their motion for new trial because when they filed their notice to stay the appeal, asking the appellate court to send it back down to Judge Newman, they attached their motion for new trial to it. That was all the courthouse Becky stuff was in that motion for new trial. So that motion for new trial has now been filed back in the lower court. So it's the same motion that we've already covered. It's now officially filed in the lower court. They filed that on October 31st. But what's new is Poot et al. Asking the South Carolina Supreme Court to remove Judge Newman from all of the Murdaugh cases. This is filed in the Supreme Court of South Carolina, not the Court of Appeals, not the Superior Court or the District Court where the trial was held. The Supreme Court. This is Murdaugh versus Judge Newman in his capacity as circuit court judge, not as an individual. So you will see, they've designated very clearly that they are dealing with Judge Newman in his official capacity. Pursuant to Rule 245B of the South Carolina Appellate Court Rules, Petitioner Murdaugh hereby petitions for a writ of prohibition to issue in the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court, prohibiting the Honorable Clifton Newman, Circuit Judge, from adjudicating Mr. Murdaugh's pending motion for new trial or presiding over future trials of indictments against him. That's what they want. Real clear statement of what they want. They want to yeet Judge Newman for everything. They want to yeet Judge Newman for everything. The trial that's coming up at the end of November, every other indictment, because he's got like 100+ indictments, every other indictment, and the motion for new trial. Generally, the judge who heard the trial hears the motion for new trial. Judge Newman presided over a 6-week trial in which Mr. Murdaugh was convicted of the murders of his wife Maggie and son Paul. The basis for Murdaugh's motion for new trial is that the Colton County Clerk of Court engaged in deliberate jury tampering during the trial to advance her own personal interest. The basis for this petition is that Judge Newman has personal knowledge about the Clerk of Court's conduct, which will undoubtedly be disputed at evidentiary hearing on the motion for a new trial. If all of the jurors come in and say, oh yeah, that's exactly what Clerk Becky did, how are we getting to undoubtedly be disputed? If it might not be, but we've already seen the prosecution in their response in the appellate court saying, well, actually, Your Honors, we aren't getting the exact same story that the defense is feeding you in this motion. So we're not like 100 that everything the defense has said is exactly as it seems, which is why I keep saying, if things are true as the defense presents them, then it's different than if it is disputed. And it might be. The fact that they said undoubtedly disputed is interesting to me. They know that the prosecution's going to come in hot. I wonder what else they know. Further, they say, after the jury returned guilty verdicts, Judge Newman made numerous statements in violation of the code of judicial conduct that require his disqualification from presiding over future proceedings in this matter. These statements include congratulating the jury for returning the correct verdict, statements at sentencing evidencing personal bias, and statements in public interviews after trial, including an interview on a nationally broadcast news program in which Judge Newman stated his personal opinion regarding Murdaugh's guilt. That's a problem. Legal issues on appeal, and strategic choices by Murdaugh's counsel during trial. He shouldn't have commented on the case until, other than saying, this was a fair trial, it will go on appeal. The case is still open about it. Mr. Murdaugh's right to have his case heard by an impartial judge will be violated if Judge Newman proceeds to hear his motion for new trial. Ordinary appellate proceedings will not be able to remedy this violation after it occurs. Thus, Murdaugh's only recourse is to preserve his rights, is an extraordinary writ of prohibition from this court to prevent the violation from occurring. They are trying to get the court to block Judge Newman from hearing this motion because once it happens, the shit's out of the horse and there's not much they can do, which is why they're saying there's no other remedy for this. I think it was a pretty good summary. I mean, it's advocacy, right? So it's the defense's version of things. But the Becky stuff is wild. And I think the reason that they are fighting here is because there is a real possibility. Most of the time, you look at this stuff and are like, good luck with your new trial motion. With this one, I look at this and I'm like, you have a real possibility for a new trial. If even part of it is true, you get a new trial. And so they're arguing that Judge Newman has expressed his opinion as to guilt, and he can't oversee a new trial, and he should not be allowed to oversee the new trial motion because of that. The defense is asking Judge Newman to recuse himself and or asking the Supreme Court to remove him from this case, from hearing the motion for new trial and any future proceedings. The defense is alleging that Judge Newman has expressed his opinions on the case, though the case is still pending because of the appeal, that he has expressed his opinion as to the defendant's guilt, that he has made other personal expressions of opinion that render him biased to the defendant and cannot hear this case going forward. They also are arguing that Judge Newman is essentially a witness to material facts with regard to Clerk of Court Becky Hill, and he therefore cannot preside over the motion for new trial. That is the heart of the defense's argument.
For deep dives into the stories that I covered here, you can find them on my YouTube channel at The Emily D. Baker and The Emily Show podcast. I stream every Tuesday and Thursday. The podcast goes live on Wednesdays. And if you want to stay in the loop with everything I'm doing, receive the fastest notifications out there, and get more Law Nerd community, join me at lawnerdapp.com, our free app for iOS and Android.